Okay, how do you go about pricing your product? Well, let's talk generally first about what you're trying to achieve with price. Well, within any given customer segment, individuals in that segment are going to be willing to pay a certain amount. A certain percentage will pay a higher price than a larger percentage will pay a lower price generally. With that in mind, where do you price your product, service, or idea along that timeline so that you capture the greatest amount of value? While a price point may exclude some customers, again, it may include enough customers that the total value you bring back in is sufficient to justify that pricing decision. Also, it will depend strategically on where you want to be. If you're pricing your product, service, or idea to, say, be a luxury good, and that's why you're differentiating it, even if you could potentially price lower and grab a greater customer segment, that may destroy your brand. For example, take a luxury watch, for example, some of the well-known brands. Could they potentially make their watches sell and for a temporary period of time sell more of those watches at a lower price point and create more value? Yes, they probably could. But with the lower price, they lose exclusivity of the brand, so it in some way erodes their brand image. So in the long run, they may defeat their purpose or the goals of their business or their strategic goals. So again, the strategic determination: are you going to be the low-cost provider, or are you going to differentiate? And in differentiating, are you going to be a luxury good? Are you going to be a middle tier with the other competitors in the field? So anyway, that will be what you want to think about. You cannot be all things to all people. So going with a set strategy, either differentiation and then keeping the pricing relevant to the market you're competing in for that differentiation, going as a luxury good where you're trying to establish your brand based on quality and the price matches that, or being the low-cost competitor. Be advised that as a startup or a new venture, it is very difficult to be the low-cost provider unless you have a new procedure or method that's protectable through intellectual property rights or other methods that others can't copy it, because given the size of existing businesses or competitors in a field, they can often overrun you quite easily if you're trying to be the low-cost competitor and you don't have some protectable means to strategically make you superior in that way to give you a competitive advantage in price. So that being said, so anyway, what are some of the methods individuals out of the gate use to price their product consistently, as we said, with your strategic orientation? Well, there's always cost plus. That is, what it costs you to make the product or perform the service, and then add to that a certain percentage. That's extremely common in, say, the retail industry, where they purchase at a given price and then they price it, their end price at a given percentage above their cost. You can do revenue targets. What amount of revenue will you have to bring in from a product, service, or idea? This would be more common, say, in information business or software as a service or something like that, where you have to have a sustainable amount of revenue to continue your growth path and make it viable. Again, so you're matching your price for the service to meet your revenue needs or demands, so you can continue to grow as a viable business. You can look to your competitors' prices, other manufacturers of goods or providers of service in the area or in your given market that do this type of thing, that whatever their price point is, and you make a justification of where your price should be in relation to them. Remember, if it's carries a higher price on the shelf, that could be a strategic sign that it's a higher quality, versus a lower price that could signal otherwise. So see where your brand stands strategically in comparison to those competitors when making that decision. You could, again, take the economic approach and try to identify the percentage statistics or numbers at which the greatest number of potential customers or clients are willing to pay a given price for your product or service. Now this is very difficult and requires a lot of information. So in that way, you'd have to go out and do some direct research, some customer surveys, and some trial runs to see what individuals are willing to pay for your product, and then make a determination: would you be able to grab more? Would grabbing more of the market at a lower price produce a greater value than grabbing less of the market at a higher price? And then you try to deduce or make your determination from there. So those are the primary methods you're going to use. Again, the cost plus, revenue target, competitor pricing, or do your own direct research to make a determination of where you're going to price your product.